Hey guys and girls, today I'm going to cover Section 4, Cold War Fears at Home. Uh, First things first, Monday you should be reading the Section 4, pages 417 to 422 and complete the note guide, and then Tuesday you'll watch the video and correct your note guide. I did break up Section 4 into two parts. The first part will cover Objectives 1 and 2, the efforts of President Truman and the House Un-American Activities Committee to fight the spread or threat of communism at home. And we'll also cover Objective 2 today, which is how domestic spy cases intensified fears of communist influence in U.S. government. On Thursday, you'll watch the second half of the Section 4 Notes video, which I'll cover the rise and fall of Senator Joseph McCarthy and his methods, which are today known as McCarthyism. One other note, hopefully we should be hearing from the states sometime this week. I'm thinking we might hear by Wednesday already. But their initial 10-day closure is going to end on Friday. My guess is they're going to extend that another 2 weeks. Potentially, I could see them potentially extending it to May, so being closed the whole month of April. And I do see a chance of returning by May. I'm hopeful, but I'm also preparing for the possibility that we might finish the school year online. So we really don't know what's going to happen yet, but that'd be something to watch for this week. But regardless, as of now, this week we still can't give you grades. I expect that if we are closed or stay online schooling for an extended period of time, that will change and the diocese will permit us to start giving grades because we will be in the fourth quarter next week. So your third quarter grades are pretty much finalized. I can't add or do anything with them. That's per the diocese. So key terms were the last grade I could put in. So there will be no change of those grades. All right, so let's jump right in. Section 4, Cold War Fears at Home. So let's talk about the Cold War tensions rising at home. Well, one of the things that's going to happen is what's called the Federal Loyalty Program. This permitted the FBI and other government security agents to screen federal employees for signs of political disloyalty. So if they looked into your past, maybe they found you were some member of some politically left-leaning organization in college, they could technically say maybe this person has communist sympathies and you could lose your government job. Second, they empowered the Attorney General of the United States. The Attorney General was able to compile a list of organizations and members of those organizations that were singled out for more intense scrutiny. A lot of organizations that tended to be singled out, besides being political organizations, were labor unions. So labor unions tended to be considered left-leaning or radical organizations. So for many on the right, they went hand in hand with communist groups. So a lot of members of labor unions were singled out for more scrutiny, even though they were not communists, but they did fight for better working conditions and rights. Third, you have the Smith Act. Unfortunately, it's not named after me, but Senator. This made it unlawful to teach or advocate the violent overthrow of the U.S. government. It's pretty straightforward. Teachers, professors couldn't teach about or try to teach their kids to overthrow the government. The fourth, in a big way, government combated communism at home outside of law enforcement was a congressional committee in the House of Representatives called HUAC, or House Un-American Activities Committee. They investigated possible subversive activities by fascists, Nazis, or communists, generally looking more at communist activities. They conducted several high publicized hearings on communist activity, the most famous being what became known as the Hollywood 10. Even today, Hollywood generally leans to the left, associated with left-leaning ideology, as it was back then. So the HUAC committee investigated possible communism in Hollywood, and this led to almost a public committee hearing that became very well known, where many famous actors, directors, producers testified in front of the House committee. And a group of 10 directors, producers, and actors actually exercised their constitutional rights to, or the Fifth Amendment, to plead the Fifth, and refused to answer the questions because they felt it was unconstitutional to be subpoenaed and asked in the first place. Not that they were trying to hide any communist activity. So here's a short video on the Hollywood 10. posted the link on the class page. If you want to pause my video now and then watch the Hollywood 10 video and then come back, you can, or watch it at the end. But please do watch that. All right, the second part, Section 4 notes I want to cover today is domestic spy cases. I'm going to look at two specifically, Alger Hiss and the Rosenbergs. So let's start with Alger Hiss, as he's pictured there. He was educated at Johns Hopkins and Harvard Law, so extensive education in America. He was a career government employee. And former Soviet spy Whittaker Chambers testified before HUAC that Hiss was an informant. So when this Whittaker Chambers testified that Hiss was an informant, caused the uproar and panic in the government. How could this American-educated career government employee be secretly given information over to the Soviets? And was he the only one? Hiss denied these allegations, but his defense began to unravel, and it was proven he did in fact know Chambers and handed over confidential government documents to Chambers. So he was found guilty of perjury. So he was lying in the committee, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. So he was actually never found guilty of being a spy, though the evidence did in fact point to him at least assisting Chambers. Next was man and wife known as the Rosenbergs. As you see right there, they are from the poor Lower East Side of Manhattan. Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were arrested and charged with conspiring to pass secret information about nuclear science to Soviet agents. They both pleaded innocent, but were later found guilty, and they were the only two, to this day, executed for being spies in the United States government. Since their execution, though, it has come into doubt, especially with Ethel, whether she was in fact in on it or not. In 1995, the U.S. government released what was known as the Venona Papers, proving the guilt of Julius, the husband at least. So it was proven that he was in fact turning over secrets to Soviet agents, but there was never any evidence that Ethel was in on it, and actually many historians today believe that she was actually innocent. Or at least she wasn't committing the act. Whether she knew her husband was or not, I will never know. But that's the second video I want you to watch today, and the Rosenbergs goes a little bit more in detail than I did on the notes, so I left that for the video. So watch that, and that'll be a wrap-up today. On Thursday, again, you'll watch the second half of the notes, where I'll pick up with the rise of Senator Joseph McCarthy, as pictured there. All right, have a great week.